I love Asian style salads, and I've been doing them more often than not because they're not only really easy to put together, but they're quite hearty and fantastic for a really fast dinner. This one is my rump steak and Hokkien noodle salad with fresh mushrooms. So to start with, you need a hot pan on. This is my griddle pan here, and this has been heating up for about 5 minutes. This steak is about 450 grams rump steak, and I've taken the fat off it. I'm going to add a little bit of oil. This is some vegetable oil, but you could also use grapeseed oil. Also some salt, so we need to season it. And I like some freshly cracked pepper too. Okay, onto the grill. Perfect. And now this is going to cook for about 2 minutes on each side. While that's cooking, we can get onto the veggies and the noodles. I have a pot here of rapidly boiling water. Just going to take that lid off. And broccolini. So this is 2 bunches of broccolini. I've just trimmed the bottom. The stalks are where all the flavour is at. I love it. If you like, you could use a peeler just to take off the first layer, but because these are so fresh and young, no need. The term blanching means adding your vegetables into rapidly boiling water. Once it comes back up to the boil, that's the indication to tell you that it's ready, because you want them to still have a slight crunch to them. You don't want them to go mushy. So wait for them to come back to the boil. I'll even put the lid on. And let's turn our steak. Oh, absolutely perfect. Nice char marks on there. This is going to give it a nice smoky flavour too. We'll give that another minute or 2 on that side. While that's happening, we can prepare our sauce. Really easy sauce, but some really interesting flavours too. We'll start with a little bit of soy sauce, a few tablespoons of soy. That's going to be the base of our sauce. Some black vinegar. In that goes, and you don't need too much of it because it is quite strong. A little bit of mirin, some sesame oil. And sesame oil is quite powerful. I do love it, but for a dressing, I don't want it to overpower. So I want about a teaspoon in there. Some caster sugar. And a little bit of oil, that vegetable oil that we used before. This is just going to emulsify it, so a small amount of that in there. And then the classics, ginger and garlic. I'll use a fine grater to mince the garlic and the ginger. So about a 2 centimetre knob of ginger that's been peeled. And we'll scrape that in there. And then 1 clove of garlic minced. And that's our dressing done. Scrape that one more time. Use a whisk just to bring all of those flavours together, and we want to dissolve that sugar in the dressing. Let's take this steak off the grill. I can feel that that is still rare, so heat goes off. We'll take that straight onto my chopping board and allow it to rest. Key rules when you're cooking steak: bring it to room temperature, season it well, rest it. By resting it, again, all those juices won't run. The juices will stay in the steak, keeping it really moist. Now it's time to take our broccolini out of the water. It's come back to the boil. I'm going to turn it off, and I'm going to refresh these to stop the cooking process immediately in some iced water. It'll also keep their vibrant green colour. So drain off excess water. They look fantastic. And don't throw away that water. I have turned it off, but I'm going to add my thin Hokkien noodles now. These are perfect for a salad like this. They're not too thick. I'm going to add the whole packet straight into the water. And this is just going to heat them up, and I want to loosen them up. So just with your tongs, just separate them a little bit and then leave them in the water for about 3 minutes. While the noodles are loosening up, I'm just going to finish off some preparation for the salad. Mushrooms, we commonly fry them, saute them, put them in stews, but very rarely do we eat them raw. They've got a really fresh flavour when they're raw, still quite earthy, but they've got a crunch to them, which I think is fantastic for a salad, because when we're talking about salad preparation, salads should always have a textural element to them. So I'm using a mandolin here, just to be a little bit fancy, to get them as thin as I can. But by all means, you can just slice them with a sharp knife. But look how beautiful they look. Really fine slithers of crunchy fresh mushroom. Fantastic. So a few more of these. These will go throughout the salad. I'm also going to garnish the top of the salad with the mushrooms. Perfect. Now all we need to do is slice our steak and put the whole thing together. The steak I'm just going to slice on an angle. I want thin pieces of steak. Oh, and it is cooked to perfection. That's how it should be. Char grilled on the outside, perfectly rosy in the center, and then once again a beautiful sharp knife to get those thin slithers of steak is what we're aiming for. And now I'm going to add this steak to this wonderful dressing. I'm just going to pick it up and pop it in there. Now I'm going to take our broccolini out of that water, drain it really well. We don't want any of that water in there. Now the broccolini I'm going to cut into thirds and in with our steak. Some wakame, which is dried seaweed. I've just rehydrated it in some warm water. So originally this would have been 1/4 of the size, so about 2 tablespoons, and you can see how much it expands. I'm going to leave them just as is. I love how curly they are. Great flavour. They can go in. It's so good for you too. And some spring onions, so a mild onion flavour. I'm going to cut these into battens, 1 to 2 centimetre battens, only the white and light green part. They can go in. And our noodles. Now they have been in the water for about 3 minutes. You can see how they've loosened up nicely. I'm just going to place them in that cold water to refresh them. And that just takes moments. And then we'll bring that over here. And then just as we did with the broccoli, drain them so there's no excess water, and we'll place them into the salad. Great. Now I'm going to start tossing this with the mushrooms. I'm going to add about half of the mushrooms at this stage and toss this with your tongs, being very gentle. I don't want to break those noodles up. I just want the sauce to coat all of the ingredients. You can see how bright this salad is. I wish you could smell that dressing. It's so good. And now on a plate, I'm going to pile a generous amount of this Hokkien noodle salad. I like to use thin noodles when I'm making a salad like this, so it really does go with everything else in the dish. It doesn't override the steak or override the vegetables. So thin noodles are best. And oh, that looks good. A few more pieces of that steak. And that was a perfect amount of dressing. You can see it's just coated everything nicely. And voila, simple salad done in 15 minutes. A gorgeous piece of steak. This feeds quite a lot of people. This will feed 4 people. 1 steak, 4 people. You bulk it out with the noodles. A fantastic Asian-inspired salad.